Look carefully. It doesn't say Mother's Day. It says Other's Day. This was an event that was held last week in Seattle, Washington. It was an event created by a young woman whom I had the privilege to meet when I flew to Seattle yesterday, named Melissa. She isn't famous, and if you notice, she wasn't trying to be famous because her name doesn't appear on the flyer. But what was important to her was the recognition that there are other women like her who for various reasons are unable to or choose not to give birth to a child. And for many of those women, Mother's Day is a hurtful trigger of this reality that they experience again and again and again. And there's no doubt in my mind that she risked being triggered even planning this event because she shared the same story as the women that she was inviting, the same lived experience as the women whom she invited to this event. I was told that it was amazing, that as awesome, as fantastic, and phenomenal as the menu was, so was the event. And although they had no idea of how many people would come, they came. And an amazing thing happened at this event. Everyone benefited. You see, researchers say that kindness is within our DNA. We're genetically wired to be kind. We're hardwired to eat, to connect, to sleep, to get upset at other people, and to look negatively, which was a part of our protection, looking out for danger. The kindness gene is the oldest in our genome. Some 500 million years is what researchers have said, which means that when personkind came about, I say that instead of humankind, we already had a capacity for kindness. Our ancestors evolved because they were helping each other to survive, which was an act of kindness. Kindness keeps you healthy. It's better than eating broccoli every day, than exercising, than drinking the required 64 ounces of water, and then eating. It's the only thing that doubles when it's shared. And although it's not a virus, it is the most highly contagious thing that there is. Wouldn't that be something if we all tested positive for kindness? There's some UCLA research that evidenced that kindness is indeed contagious, and that because of its contagious nature, everyone can be kind to someone, but we have the potential to be kind to everyone. Think about that. There was a video in the Connections email this week. I don't know if anybody took a look at that. But it is an amazing video that shows you that it doesn't take 15 minutes or more to be kind, that it activates someone else's kindness, activates your kindness gene and moves you to be kind. It's whether or not we recognize that moment and act on it or not. It has side effects. Something called cardioprotective phenomenon. It's things that contribute to the preservation of the heart by reducing or preventing myocardial damage. It has a side effect that the side effect of kindness is happiness, and the side effect of greater happiness is greater kindness. So you can actually create the kindness and the amount of kindness that you have within you by continuing the possibility of kindness, receiving kindness, feeling and recognizing the happiness, and allowing that to make you more kind. So why are we discussing that? Because everybody's kind. Why are we discussing this? It's because We've been in the midst of a time in history in which many people, the past few years, have been doing kind deeds for other people. Life called upon us to pull from places that we might not have even realized that we had because of what was going on in the world at that time over the past few years. But as we find ourselves moving from that place, are we still checking in to find out if that level of kindness is still there? Or are we starting to find ourselves a little less tolerant of each other, starting to judge each other, starting to recognize those things that just get under our skin, and so we just dismiss it or we forget? Are we being the man in the mirror, forgetting that many, many are still distanced, even though we may not be experiencing a 6-foot distance? That many are still alone, even though we may not be physically alone? That many are still health challenged, even though we may not be experiencing health challenges? And that it might look differently. It may not be as COVID is, but it may be as society has been for them before COVID ever happened and still exists now. Their societal symptoms may still be present in other ways while we feel like we're moving back to the norm. Or have we confused kindness with niceness? Have we exchanged kind for nice? They aren't the same. It's nice when you give toys at Christmas time to children. It's nice when you offer to pick up somebody's coffee when you're heading to Pete's. Nice is that thing called pleasing, agreeable, sweet. That's kind of why we use the word nice for things more often than for people. We say you have a nice tie, but we don't say you have a kind tie. You have nice shoes, but not you have kind shoes. Kind is having, showing, and proceeding from benevolence. We confuse ourselves when we mix up those words because kindness is much more about motivation. The true character of kindness is what you do when no one's looking, or no one needs to, or no one has to know what it is that you did. Being nice is the result of social conditioning and expectations about how we should be, how we should act. It teaches us how to be polite and avoid conflict. My partner's probably gonna fuss at me, but in the Netherlands, it's a nice thing. You bring flowers when you come to somebody's house for the first time. You always bring flowers because it's nice. Is it kind? It depends on what's your motivation. But if you bring flowers every time because you're supposed to bring flowers every time, I know we're supposed to bring flowers every time, that's a nice thing when it's something that you do out of politeness. But it could be damaging if you don't pay attention to your motivation around what you do, because kindness is a courageous act. For an example, you could be at a party, someone makes a sexist joke that's degrading to women, and your nice response is to say nothing, to laugh uncomfortably, or to just leave the room. Your kind response may be to speak up, to say something about the joke's inappropriateness, and to leave the room. It may not feel nice to do that, but ultimately it's far kinder to both the person who has made the joke and the person who's the brunt of the joke, and the others in the room, for you to call that out. Are we kind from the heart about inclusivity, which is one of the words that we just mentioned up there? It's something to think about. I heard someone ask me, are we becoming a gay church? Are we becoming a black church? And from the depth of my kindness, I would say, yes, I hope we are becoming the most gay, straight, non-binary, cisgender, transgender, fluid, black, white, biracial, multiracial, inclusive church in Marin. that wasn't nice. But it was kind. Kindness is also not charity. Charity is something that's need-based and often puts the giver in this unintended place over the receiver. Kindness doesn't do an evaluation of need, but is connected to the experience at hand, the feelings, the situations that someone has. This is a school that I went to with a group of other adults and about 20 young people? It was in the Dominican Republic, in the city of El Tamarindo. And we went on a mission trip. Our goal was to upgrade the school, to provide them with necessities, and to do a 1-week spiritual study. It was an act of kindness, but we were motivated by what was need-based. And so we went from what was nice to what was kind. The children were poor, and so was the school. And this is the picture that I could show you. The other ones were pretty difficult. They didn't have running plumbing in the kitchen, in the bathrooms, and so all of that needed to be taken care of. And there were what we called street children who would run after you begging for things behind you, and we had to do a training about how to respond to that. Those same street children went to sleep in the middle of the street, and they would pile with the youngest on the bottom and the oldest on the top to keep the youngest one warm when it got cold in the night. But one afternoon, the teenagers and the adults were eating lunch, and they finished their food, and the things that they had left over that they didn't eat or want to eat, they were putting into the garbage can. And in the moment that they were going into the garbage can, and it was interesting how the street children would watch you and come out of nowhere, they started to run toward the garbage can to eat out of the garbage can, and the head of the school stopped them and said that was terrible, that they shouldn't do something like that. And we paused for a moment because they were hungry. They were the same children who were sleeping in the street, piled on top of each other at night. And so I said to the teenagers, don't put your leftovers in the garbage, leave it on the plate, and just set the plate somewhere out of the sight of the head of the school. And so that's what we did. And they went inside, and when we came back out, the plates were gone, and the food was gone. That moment changed everything for everybody. And we went from a place of doing a nice deed to wanting to do more and to be kind. And we met this student there named Jonathan, who had aged out of the school, but couldn't go on to the next school because his parents couldn't even afford the transportation for him to get to another school. And he seemed so bright, and he seemed so interested in learning. And so the teenagers, after they saw the conditions in El Tamarindo, and it was a horrible situation that was there, they decided that they would figure out a way, even though most of them were still in school, that they would save money and that they would put Jonathan through school. They, in essence, wanted the things that are mentioned in the inspirational reading, that we wanted gratitude to be the pillow upon which he kneeled. We wanted to dare to love deeply and risk everything for the good thing. And so they continued to save money for Jonathan for quite some time. And we don't own time, which is what they recognized. We only own moments. And so they didn't know what life was going to be like for him next. But what they wanted was the best possible chance for something. And it moved them to kindness. They wanted to astonish a mean world with acts of kindness, to allow humor to lighten the burden of his heart in a society dark with cruelty, to let people hear the grandeur of God in the peals of your laughter, to let your eloquence elevate people to heights they had only imagined. And so there we were, just falling into kindness, landing into kindness. And what we discovered was that kindness is just equally available. It's free. And so we can give it away with absolute abundance. It has never stopped for us because it's within us and continues to be within us. We can land right in it. We can experience it. I mean, land in it. If you've ever been in a group and allowed someone to catch you and you fall back and they catch you, or you go into a swimming pool and you just land in it and you let the moment take you, that's not a good example for me because I'm afraid of swimming. But for many, it's like, what if it was like that for us with kindness? You give into kindness. You let go in kindness. You release yourself in kindness. Because of all of the things that kindness is, it's a spiritual act. If everything in the world messes up for one person, we have the awesome gift to be the one kind person in their world where there may be no kindness. And in those situations, there were 20 teenagers in the Dominican Republic. There was a woman named Melissa on Others' Day. There's us. There's you. There's me. Because for us, kindness is a spiritual act. This is Jonathan Cruz Henriquez, who studied accounting at the Universidad Dominicana and who has been working since 2015 and lives in Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. Their trip of charity, changed to a radical gift of kindness, touched those teenagers forever and this person forever as they followed this person through life. And that Others' Day event, it was attended by many women who healed, rejoiced, and celebrated who they are from one person's act of kindness. Because of all the things that kindness is, the most important is that it's a spiritual act. And they wrote about themselves on their way out. Who they respect, who are other people like them, including themselves, that they admire, and what true love is, and that it's not defined by what you cannot do or the things that you must make as a choice in your life. So I want you to just take that thought about kindness into meditation. That you can just live there, that we all can just live there, that it's where we are, who we are, and that we can just claim it and be aware of it and continue there. Jeremy, can we have some quiet music? And that we just live there and land there, and that kindness is our place of bliss, without fear, without needing to do something, but holding kindness everywhere, always, so that it becomes the lens through which we understand those around us and ourselves. It's how we reshape our DNA to become even deeper, to really grasp a depth of kindness. And when you land there, truly land there, in a world where social media, bad news outweighs good news 17-1, we land in kindness. When in fact there is far more good news than bad news, we land in kindness. When others make mistake and miss the mark, or when we make mistakes or miss the mark, we land in kindness. When we remember that there are situations that other people are experiencing that are not ours, but are theirs that we reach out and we land in kindness. We can experience the life-giving, life-saving, courageous gift of kindness. And as you take these couple of minutes of silence, hold on to the fact that of all things, kindness is a spiritual act. And if you can say, I can land in kindness. Can you look at someone and say, you can land in kindness? Can you say, I am kindness? And can you look at someone and say, you are kindness? Amen. Blessed be. Ashe. And if you'll repeat our affirmation with me, the river of kindness flows through each one of us. I can land in kindness. Thank you.